Well, committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raise hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder, this is a video conference and to please be aware of the surroundings behind you. All Legal Service Trust Fund Commission and committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar's website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select enable transcript. Thank you.
Always tricky for me to get my unmute button to come back. Okay, Crystal, can you do roll call? And you have a reminder for all of us too.
Sure. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the commissioners. Before taking roll call, just wanted to give a friendly reminder that under Bagley-Keene, all commissioners participating in the meeting must have their cameras on for the duration of the meeting. If you are unable to keep your camera on, you must indicate a reason for your non-appearance. So thank you. Thank you in advance. And with that, I will take roll call. Connolly?
Present.
Elseroff? Escobedo?
Here.
Milrod?
Here.
Thank you. Alicani? Babcock?
Here.
Blakemore?
Here.
Campbell?
Here.
Gulkin?
Here.
Gonzalez?
Here.
Long? King?
Here.
Klein?
Here.
Mahoney?
Here.
Morales? Pryor?
Here.
Rosie?
Here.
Stanville? Smith?
Here.
Stalker?
Here.
Vargas? Okay. And then I'll go on to our advisors, Justice Rodriguez. Judge Juan Gutierrez.
If I may say, my last name it ends with a Z, not an S.
Oh, thank you for pointing that out. We'll correct that. Thank you so much. And then Judge Yang. Okay, and then with our liaisons, Selena, I believe I saw you. Okay, thank you. And then Melanie. Big screen. Okay. And then I'll just make a note of State Bar staff present. Thank you. So we have 14 members present. We have quorum, and yeah, we've established quorum.
Great. We're going to turn now to public comment. We're going to set public comment at 2 minutes. I did want to just flag that before we begin public comment, I'd like to remind everyone that under the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, public comments must pertain to items that are on the agenda or be related to matters that are within the jurisdiction of this agency. So specifically, the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission exercises oversight on the administration of grant programs that fund local and statewide civil legal aid organizations to advance its mission. The commission does not have authority over attorney discipline, and there are no attorney discipline matters on the agenda for today's meeting. So with that caveat, do we have any public comment?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. So the chair's report. I don't believe that I have anything in particular to report at this time. I think there are some updates that we'll talk about after we go through the justice gap study. But I think those are probably helpful to do at the end. And then I'll turn it over to Dewan and Elizabeth for the director's report.
Dawn?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm moving downstairs, but there is no director's report. There's only one agenda item today.
Great.
Is Elizabeth's agenda item.
Perfect. I just my agenda here said oral report, so I just wanted to make sure there was nothing that we needed to talk about. Okay, let's move to the staff report then, which is the update on the 2024 Justice Gap Study recommendations. That's Erica Carroll and Elizabeth. So look forward to
Great.
hearing what we.
Thank you, Erica. Can we please promote Erica Carroll and Lisa Chavez? Great, thank you. So, hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Hom. I'm a program director in the Office of Access and Inclusion. With me today to present on the update for the 2024 California Justice Gap Study are Lisa Chavez, program director from our Office of Research and Statistics, and lead program analyst Erica Carroll from Access and Inclusion. We will be presenting some preliminary findings as well as preliminary recommendations for your consideration today. Because we are still working on the study, I want to stress that the findings presented are subject to change. We are still reviewing the data and verifying findings, so any information presented today may change between now and the time we publish the study. We are sharing the preliminary data because it will be helpful context when previewing the proposed recommendations for your feedback. Additionally, we are presenting a large set of preliminary recommendations with the goal to gather your input, and the recommendations may change and be refined before final publication. As a reminder, the Commission at its November meeting delegated authority to the co-chairs to work with staff to finalize the recommendations, and we will be publishing this report in February 2025. As we walk through the presentation, please let us know if you have any questions, and I think we can go to the next slide. So this is our agenda for today. I will review some findings, review our recommendations, and then, but of course, if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to raise your hand and let us know. And I'm happy now to turn it over to Lisa.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Chavez, and I'm the Director of the Office of Research and Statistics at the State Bar. It is my honor to share and privilege to share with you the extensive amount of research my team, as well as the team in Office of Access and Inclusion, has done on this very important topic. As a reminder, in 2019, we published a report on this very topic. What are this, documenting the civil legal needs of Californians. And we're pleased to share that we've done extensive research throughout 2024 to really update what we know about the topic. And in so doing, we are producing a report in 2024 in February of next year. It's really going to take us down into understanding the demand of the civil legal needs that exist in California, and then the supply that's available to meet that demand. And so this is a bit of a different approach that we took in 2019, but there's some elements of the study that are the same that I'll point out as we go along. So the way I'm going to go about this is when we think about the report that we're going to be producing, it's going to have a series of pages that's going to take us down into the different subtopics about what illuminates demand and what illuminates the supply. And that's what I'll be doing right now. Some of these slides are a little bit more in data intensive that we'd hope, so we shared this with you in advance, and I'll be probably taking a little discretion to kind of zip through them just to so you could just get on to your discussion about and review of the policy recommendations. So let's get started. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, so one thing we did last time 5 years ago, which was we contracted with the National Opinion of the Research Center to do a survey of Californians, and we took that same approach this time, except what we did was instead two things happened. Two differences. First is that we administered the survey in more languages beyond English and Spanish, and you see those languages right here. We're really excited that we ended up with a statewide survey sample size of around over 6,000 people. And we took the same approach that we did last time, which is when people filled out the survey, they were asked about the civil legal problems that they faced in the last 12 months. And it's really important to understand how the survey works. It's not that people were asked to reflect on what problems they had and then they shared out. Instead, they were presented with a list of 84 problems. And they were asked literally through each one, did you or anyone in your household face this issue in the last 12 months? And so it wasn't, and the list of civil problems that are presented to them are those that NORC has decided or has concluded that they're justiciable. This word I have a hard time pronouncing. but these are basically civil legal problems that could be resolved with legal action. And they were simply asked to ask if they experienced it or someone in their household did or not. And if the answer was yes, then they were asked a series of questions about those problems. What did they attempt to do to solve the problem, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll get into some of those results in a moment. So that's how the survey worked. One thing we did differently this time around is that we sampled and we'll plan on reporting on 4 different income groups. Last time we just compared our lowest income Californians. At the time, the definition was at or below 125% poverty. And now that that definition has changed in California, given for our legal aid grantee work, we have 4 income groups. The lowest income are the group of people who are eligible for legal aid, regardless of where they live. But then we've also disaggregated the rest of the sample into 3 categories. And it's here we're looking at where their income is in relation to their county median income. And this was really important to us to take this approach because this is in recognition that the cost of living really varies widely across California. And that's why you see this definition the way it is that we categorize people, their household income according to the percentage of where they fell with their county median income. And all of this will be explained in the methodology. Let's continue on. So let's start off with some just really key findings about this. So really the most important thing is just to zoom out and just ask, well, how many number of legal problems did people experience in the last year? And again, this is just, people were able to look at those 84 problems and they collected, clicked as many as possible, right? So the first thing you should notice is that, overall, that's the purple bar, 69% of Californians reported when they looked at that list of 81, they had at least one problem. Then as you can see, let's start here for the group that has one or more problems, which should stand out to everyone. And this was very important for us for why we are exploring these results across the income distribution, is that civil legal problems in California are kind of a universal problem, regardless of income. What we noticed in the data so far is that, yes, for so many things that we've analyzed, our lowest income Californians, they experience more of things, they have less legal help. But what we'll see and what's coming out in the data, and again, we're only going to be able to share some preliminary results, is that folks in the middle and higher income categories, they too have civil legal needs and are struggling to get those needs met. So if you start at the top here, you see that 67% of high income people, for example, have one or more problems. Here on the left, you see that there is a difference in the average number of problems with people in high income groups, households. They have an average of 5 problems, whereas for the other 3 groups, it's 7 problems. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to just jump ahead and share what our definition of the justice gap. So the way we are calculating the justice gap in California is the percent of problems for which Californians did not receive any or enough legal help. And so all of this data is these analysis is at the problem level, not the individual level. So in our 2019 report, we reported that the justice gap is 85%. That's 85% of all problems that Californians have don't receive any help. And in 2024, the result is something similar. It's 87%. Something we did different this time around is, at the top, you'll see that that's for all problems, but the set of bars at the bottom, that narrows in on the problems with substantial impact. So for every single problem that they said, yes, I experienced this problem, some of my household experienced this problem, they were presented with a Likert scale that said, to what extent was your family impacted by this? You impacted this. So this really narrows down into the problems with substantial impact. So if you look at the top, the justice gap across the 4 income groups isn't very, it doesn't vary much. But when you go down and look at the problems of substantial impact, what you can see is that the lowest income Californians, they're the ones with the highest income, with the highest justice gap. 83% of lowest income Californians did not receive any or enough legal help for problems that substantially impacted them. The next biggest group is high income, but that is a significant difference. And then you see the other 2 groups. Okay, next slide. The survey asked people in their opinion, for every single problem, they had a series of follow-up questions. And one question was, in your opinion, is this the type of problem that a lawyer or other legal professional could help resolve? And what the results show is that Californians believe that a lawyer could resolve just 1/3 of their legal problems. And this is an example where the relationship is quite linear, where only 28% of the lowest income Californians believe that they could, only 28% of the problems could be solved by a lawyer. However, if you look at the red bars, there's very little variation in the share that say straightforward, they do not believe that. So that's kind of interesting. So it looks as though like so when you ask if they do, for those who said don't believe, there is an income variation, but where you're seeing the variation is in the not sure and believe. And like I said, the lowest income Californians really stand out here, is that so very few, only 28% believe this. Okay, next slide. So that has to do with the knowledge gap. And here I'm sharing a couple of different new survey items that we added, or rather they existed, but we added some more response options in response to our stakeholders' interests in this topic. So let's start here. This is really getting at like the barriers for when people said that for this problem, I didn't seek legal help. Why didn't you talk to someone? There was a series of questions that those people received, and that's here on the left. So why haven't you talked to a lawyer or a legal professional about this problem? And they had an opportunity to select all that apply. And the top, 3 reasons is the first one is they decided to deal with the problem on their own. The second was they were worried about cost. And the other one was I didn't think the problem was serious enough. And here on the right, it's just another way of getting at barriers. Before it was about the specific problem. Then it's just like, okay, no, this one on the left was, why didn't you talk to someone? Here on the right is like, okay, considering everything you've tried, why haven't you ultimately gotten all the legal help you wanted about this problem? And here at the top, again, the top reason was that ongoing costs were too expensive to get any or more help. And the next one was, I couldn't find a lawyer or a legal professional that would take my case. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so those are the some preliminary results for our survey of Californians, and again we're going to be producing a report that has many more results on this topic. Okay, so now we're going to turn to the research that we've done on legal aid organizations. And this is a piece of research that we did last time, where we directed our legal aid grantee organizations to conduct what's called an intake census. And here we direct them for 4 weeks to track all problems that come through the door and meticulously note what happened to those problems, to what extent they were able to serve them. And we had around, out of 89 organizations, 60 participated. Can you take the next slide, please? So I'm going to share some preliminary results. So let's zoom out, and all those 60 organizations sent us all their data, and we tallied that they had around over 32,000 unique eligible problems walk through the door. And eligible problems, I mean, these are problems that these organizations, they were eligible to serve. And all this will explain in our report. But when we zoom out and said, okay, well, this has to do with over a month. What does that translate to over a year? So we estimate that comes out to around 421,000 eligible problems. And we did a similar analysis like this for 2019. So here on the left is the distribution of the types of problems. And as you can see, housing is the biggest set of problems that come through the door. The next biggest group are miscellaneous problems. And these are a set of problems that don't fit into any other categories. And they're things like wills and estates, things related to taxes, things that ultimately are not solvable through civil law. And that's why our organizations put them here. And then the next biggest group of problems after that are problems related to immigration. So here on the right is actually, this is a new analysis we did for 2024. And let's start here with the results on 2024. That's the bar on the right. Again, for every problem that came through the door, legal aid organizations were reported to us, they were either to fully serve the problem, this problem received some but not enough legal help, or they received not any help at all. And so in 2024, 44% of the problems that came through the door received no help, 32% received some but not enough help, and only 24% were fully served. We calculate a justice gap similar to what we did with the NORC survey, by adding up those bottom two categories, and we say that 76% of all the problems that legal aid organizations received experienced a justice gap because they didn't receive any help at all, or they received some but not enough help to solve the problem. And we compared those results to 2019, and we see that the justice gap back in 2019 was 70%. So there's an increase in the justice gap across these years. Go ahead, next slide, please. Okay, so that's a summary of the results that we've done so far on the intake census for legal aid organizations. Okay, so now I'm going to turn to a set of results that we've done. This is a new piece of research on small business owners in California. There's 4.1 million small business owners, and they support around 2.6 million jobs. 45% are minority owned. The thing is that all businesses have legal needs, but small businesses really lack resources to get their needs met. If you think of say corporations, for example, they hire entire legal teams to solve their legal problems, but small businesses are kind of left on their own to solve their legal problems. And so the reason why we thought that this was a good topic to explore is because, again, small businesses are the backbones of communities. They serve 2.6 million, jobs, etc. And if they can't have their legal needs met, they risk failure. They risk facing legal disputes with the public. So, for example, consumer issues, employee issues, that affects the public. And so we partner with the California Office of Small Business Advocate to administer a survey to the people that receive their newsletter. And we set over 100 small business owners participated in a survey that asked questions about the legal needs that they have and their ability to meet those needs. So let's hit the next slide. So here on the top is just some key statistics about the need that we saw among. So we asked them to take the same approach that NORC did, except it was slightly different. But ultimately, we asked them to reflect on the previous 12 months and think about, did they have faced at least one legal need that their business faced in operating their business? On average, people had reported having around 4 needs. And when asked, well, what did you want ultimately? And 78% said that they simply wanted legal advice about their specific situation and what action they should take. And then we took them down into well, tell me more about that. And it's 50% needed help just reviewing their contracts and agreements. Those of you who have businesses can imagine exactly what they're facing, right? 40% needed advice on tax laws, other financial legal issues. 38% needed advice on how to comply with governance and licensing permits. And overall, 58% reported that their legal needs were not met in the previous 12 months. Here at the bottom on the left, this is the impact that they're reporting for not getting those legal needs met. 85% had a financial impact. 77% reported impact on their time. This is time away that they have from growing their business, and 75% reported an impact on their mental health and well-being. And up here at the right, you'll see that the number one thing that people do to try to get their needs met is to look up for information online, and only 61% spoke to a lawyer. And the reasons for not seeking legal help, that is speaking to a lawyer or doing any of these things up here, is ultimately 67% are concerned about the cost talking to a lawyer. 35% said they didn't know how to find help, and 27% said they simply lacked time. Okay, next. Okay, then we also did a piece of research on people in the criminal justice system. And this is something we knew we did for 2024 compared to 2019. And here we really wanted to understand the civil legal challenges, how that intersects with people who are currently in the criminal justice system. So we distributed a survey to our public defender contacts across all 58 counties. In fall, we received responses from around 37 of them, and some of those counties had multiple participants because we asked them to forward the survey to other public defenders within their offices, and resulted we had around 89 surveys. This is meant to be very exploratory. But the purpose of the survey was to ask them to think about their clients that they served in 2024, including those that they were assisting at the time of their survey, and ask, what is your understanding of the civil legal needs that your clients have faced, as well as people in their households? Now, hit the next slide, please. Here again on the need, 88% of public defenders who've responded to the survey said that they believe that their clients experienced civil legal issues that substantially impacted their lives or the lives of people in their households at the time that they had represented them. 44%, so those who said that, yes, I had at least one client, 44% reported that most of their clients experience this issue, right? Public defenders, they very often have more than one client at one time. 44% said that most of their clients experienced such issues. And the most common issues they saw were related to housing, immigration, and family law. And 59% said that in their estimation, few, defined as less than 25% or less, sought help for their legal problems. And here on the right, and what's important to note here is that we weren't able to survey people involved in the criminal justice system. We're surveying people who are serving these people. So it is from their vantage point. So it's like, so this question on the right here is like, in your opinion, why do you think people don't seek help for legal issues? And nearly all said that lawyers simply cost too much, and another 84% that they believe that their clients just don't know how to find legal help. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so now we did a really deep dive into our intake census on the demand for immigration services. So here hit the next slide, please. So a key finding is, and then you'll recall this from the previous slide, is that problems related to immigration are the third largest categories of problems presented to legal aid organizations in California. That translates into an estimated 50,000 eligible problems that come through the door. Here on the right, we calculated the justice gap for those immigration-related problems, and the justice gap for immigration-related problems is 79%, which is higher than the 76% overall, you may recall from the previous slide. What's really neat about our intake census is that for those problems that did not receive any help, the legal aid organizations tell us why, and 22% said it was because they fell outside of priority guidelines, 27% said insufficient funds, and 51% said other reasons. We're really excited about future research so we can dig more deeply into this category for other reasons, because we saw an increase in that compared to 2019. And so we think this is a really ripe area of research to really understand, like, okay, so if you weren't able to help something and it wasn't under these two categories, then what was the reason? So we're really excited about that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so that's all the research we've done that illuminates the demand that currently exists in California. Hopefully you've been convinced that there's a lot of demand from lots of different parts of across California and within different communities. Can I answer any questions right now before we move on to supply? Oh, someone want to call? Shall I call people?
Efrain, do you want to? Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah. Thanks, Elizabeth. Great presentation, fascinating
Thank you.
data. So thank you, Lisa, for that. Quick question more on the survey you shared with the sample size of 6,000. Just curious, is there any data available on the sample? Like, what does the demographics look like of the respondents?
Yes, absolutely. And we will, that'll be part of the report that we're preparing.
Great.
Everything will be disaggregated by, like, in fact, it'll be even further disaggregated by income group. So we'll be able to say, of all the low income people that we've sampled, here's the racial ethnic distribution, et cetera.
Thank you.
Ken?
Two quick questions. Lisa, thank you for that presentation. First, on the extrapolation to, I think it was 421,000 legal problems that you had, was that extrapolation for just the survey responding organizations or for all IOLTA funded organizations in California? Because I think you said only about, what was it, 60-some% of organizations responded?
Yes, yes. So it's only based on the responding organizations, and we make that really clear in the report, which is why, yes.
So the actual need is no doubt larger.
Yes, exactly. And we make that point also in our write-up.
Got it. One other quick question on the small business responses. Did you distinguish at all in the responses you got as to whether the legal problem involved litigation or not?
So, but I can take a look.
Great, thanks.
Thank you so much.
I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, terrific. Okay, so like I said, the way we're structuring our report is to think in terms of like we'll take you down into the need, and now we're going to turn to the supply available to meet this demand. So just so you know that, of course, there's so much out there, right, that is available to meet supply. And so we have a very targeted focus, but hopefully we think that we have a lot of bases covered here, and big and small. So let's start. Okay, so let's start first with our legal aid organizations. This section of the report has a really comprehensive overview of state bar funding of the legal aid organizations, IOLTA, how it works, the discretionary grants, the EF funds. And we're really excited about this because our conclusion that this is the first time, at least maybe in a long time, where the state bar is pulling together all of this information on what exactly these different streams of fundings are. You know, we have historical data, et cetera. So really excited about that. But this section also, it contains analysis that seek to understand what we just showed you on the slide on the intake census, which what appears to be that there's fewer people being fully served, and there's a bigger justice gap the way we've defined it. So that's the section on legal aid. That's what it has. And I believe, Eric and Elizabeth, I'm gonna share these analyses with you, and we'll pause to take any questions you may have, because I have a feeling you'll be interested in this. Okay, so the report contains a historical overview of the amount of legal aid grants funding that has been dispersed over the last 10 years. And so as you can see in 2024, you know, as you all know this, 180 million was dispersed, and there's been a really steady growth in the funds dispersed, except for 2021 when grants dispersed dropped to around 60 million. In 2023, 51% of state bar funding was tied to discretionary grants. And these are grants, as you know, that are awarded for specific purpose. And back in 2019, that value was 35%. So we think that this is, you know, kind of something to consider when we think about how it looks as though legal aid organizations were able to serve fewer people, or at least serve them fewer, because as we all know, discretionary grants really kind of restrict the ability to provide services when demand was for a different legal issue, for example. Next slide. So we did an analysis that really takes us down into the challenges faced by legal aid organizations. On the table here on the right, we focus on understanding the staffing at state bar funded organizations and how that's changed between 2019 and 2023. And so back in 2019, 98 organizations received state bar funding, and that increased slightly to 101 in 2023. And first, let me just share, and this isn't in the table, but what we did, we looked at the budgets, and as you know, we received information from all grantees on all sources of funding. And what we found is that in 2023, 20% of organizations' total budgets came from the state bar, but in 2019, that was 16%. So the state bar is funding a bigger share of organizations' total budgets, which suggests that other sources of funding has decreased, but that's something, of course, we can explore further. Now let's get back to the staffing table. So yes, we just told you that legal aid organizations has received significant amount of more funding, but when we look at what that has translated into, we found that on average, only around 3 attorneys were added to organizations. So back in 2019, legal organizations that received funding employed around nearly 1,600 attorneys. In 2023, that's up to nearly 2,000. When you translate that out to the average per organization, it only results in adding around 3 across these 100 organizations. We also did a calculation on the percent of indigent Californians that exist per legal aid attorney. In 2023, there was over 5,000 indigent Californians per legal aid attorney, and that's an increase compared to 2019. We did an analysis of the number of pro bono attorneys that are volunteering with our legal aid organizations, and there has been a slight increase, as you can see. In 2019, it was nearly 13,000, and in 2023, that went up to 13,700. However, the amount of pro bono hours has decreased compared to 2019, and has not really recovered to reach pre-COVID pandemic levels. Where you do see an increase is the average number of non-attorney staff. As you can see, in 2019, the average organization hired 19 staff with our funds. Sorry, not with our funds in general. But in 2023, it was 20. They had around 28, and so that was the increase there.
So,
Okay.
as Lisa mentioned, you know, so looking at this analysis, we had a lot of questions, and so as a staff, we did brainstorm on, you know, some of the other contextual reasons for some of why this data looks the way it does. I know that the impact of the pandemic, impact of the recruitment and retention crisis in legal aid has an impact on hiring and retaining attorneys. We also know that pro bono has changed from pre-pandemic till now. A lot of attorneys are looking for kind of smaller bite-sized opportunities, and so that would account for why there may be more attorneys but less hours. So there are a whole list of kind of factors that we want to include in our write-up on this to explain the situation here. But I see, Selena, you have your hand raised.
I just had a clarifying question. On this slide where it says the budgets, 20% of organizations' budget came from the state bar, up from 16%. I just wanted to point out that you would have the number of the total amount of funding, and I don't think it is possible that other sources of funding did not decrease. It's just that they didn't increase as much as you had projected or something. So it is, I feel like the legal aid funding community, the funding has actually gone up. And so I think it's just a smaller share back in 2019.
Afreen?
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. So I just curious, this is not a question, it's more of a reaction to the data. And that is, you know, I'm wondering to what extent the research or data we have will help us answer the question of, hey, how are we keeping in line with how maybe legal aid organizations are shifting how they're defining impact and service, that is maybe not just strictly on direct representation, but around this whole piece. And it strikes me to see that, you know, from this data, they're prioritizing staffing in other types of services than they are in adding attorneys, which makes sense around greater case management, more type of like coordinated service type of infrastructure. So, you know, just throwing it out there, the thought that came for me was, you know, are there ways that they're now defining their impact that maybe we're not capturing as we think about the bigger picture of how impact is moving in communities? I mean, it may not be just solely under direct service. I know that's our primary objective, but just wanted to share that reaction when I saw the 3 average number of attorneys added versus 9 average number of non-attorney staff added in these organizations.
That's a really good point, Efreen. I think also a lot of our legal aid organizations are shifting to a holistic model of providing services, as well as utilizing their attorneys at their highest level, so that, you know, if a paralegal or another advocate can help with some of the work for their clients, that's been a model that's been kind of growing over the last several years. Erica?
Yeah, so this question may be a little bit basic, but I'm curious what were staff's questions when seeing this data? Because I think it might be helpful for those of, you know, just to kind of spell out what was surprising or not surprising about what you found with this.
Sure. Erica Carroll, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, you're asking what kind of came to mind for us when we saw it initially?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, it sounds like there's that there was a bit of a surprise that this is like the result of the supply. And I'm just curious, I want to be sort of, just to make sure we're all on the same page, just on explaining, like, why is that surprising? Were we expecting something different? What questions came up? Just so this way we understand kind of what why this may not have been what we were expecting.
I don't know if I would say that we were, you know, terribly surprised. I think if you were looking at it in terms of, like, if you were just doing a one-to-one analysis of, like, funding went up, but we're seeing numbers that are not necessarily correlating with that, then you would feel surprised, but I think given that we are aware of the full context, and so like some of what Elizabeth touched on, like we understand the turnover rate, the recruitment and retention challenges, some of the changing service models that have moved more towards either limited service or limited scope unbundled type services, that you might see these variations. But I think, yeah, if you were just to be looking at it strictly as like state bar funding went up, why didn't these numbers go up? That would perhaps be surprising, but it wasn't. My sense was that for staff, it was not difficult for us to come up with these other factors that are shaping kind of the numbers that you're seeing on the slide.
Oh, sorry. And just to follow up on that question though, it does look like some of the numbers went up, right? There was like 3 more attorneys hired and
Yeah.
like 9 more non-attorneys. So I guess what I'm wondering is, were we expecting, given the rate of increase, for there to be like more people, or do we see this as sort of like a good trend, right? You know, I don't know. Maybe that's not really, I'm not getting at the issue, but it seems like there is like more staffing. Maybe we were just expecting even more people, given how
Yeah.
much the funding increased. Okay, that's fine.
There is more staffing, and there were only a few more organizations added, but that does impact sort of like the total per organization, and so
right.
yeah, I think the distribution makes sense that way.
Right. And sorry, Erica Connolly, I used the word surprise, and that probably wasn't the correct word for me to use. Patience.
So if time brings up a really good question that hadn't occurred to me quite in that way. How do you measure the people served by impact work? Many times the ripple effects of an impact case, nobody knows that they benefited from legal services lawyers taking on systems, or whatever, taking on the folks that would have created a problem that didn't get created, or that went away because there was a case that the client never heard of. Somebody else was the client. I'm wondering, is there in this survey process, I mean, that increase in unserved people who were either not served at all or didn't receive enough legal help? No, that's sort of alarming in light of the money that is invested in the effort. I don't necessarily agree that our whole job as legal aid lawyers is to do service work. That there's lots of ways to serve people. So I'm just wondering if those of you who have done those surveys, if you have whether there were inquiries, maybe of the legal aid organizations themselves, about were they doing impact work, and if so, what were the anticipated benefits to their communities of that work?
We do ask of our grantees about the impact work that they're doing, and we do ask them to give us information about who that impact work will benefit. I think related to the NORC survey, I think Lisa could probably speak more about it, but my understanding is that the surveyors asked, Californians across the state whether they had experienced a set of problems. We didn't ask if they were legal problems, because perhaps an average Californian might not know that whatever life problem they have is a legal problem. And so we didn't ask them necessarily about like impact litigation or anything like that. It was more related to, do you have an issue with a creditor or a medical bill or something like that?
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, the questions were did you have a problem that a lawyer who's doing service work might be able to assist with? And that is not a process that's going to yield beneficiaries of impact work. So responses, they're like, oh, thank God this legal aid organization, I have a place to live in this fancy neighborhood because there's no affordable housing there because legal aid lawyers sued for it. None of that this survey doesn't reach that question. So really my question is there some way of gauging that? And is that, is anybody going to do that? Because that's a different kind of justice.
Sure. Lisa, are you able to help answer that one?
And I think what you're getting at is kind of it's calling to mind the making an impact report that OEI published in 2019, right? Which is really trying to like take us down into like the impact that legal aid has on communities, you know, for things like that. I think was that what I'm hearing? Sounds familiar. That's what that report, when hearing the discussion, that report comes to mind. And if that is true, then I believe our plan is to do a report similar to that in the next 2 years.
I think also currently in terms of our information or data gathering regarding impact work, we do have the impact litigation and advocacy work reports that grantees submit every year, and those are not reports that we've necessarily turned into something for external stakeholders. We have used it internally for evaluation purposes, and then obviously it's also part of the qualified expenditures calculation in the eligibility process for IL-10 EAF applications each year. So I think there is the potential to do more analysis with those reports if desired, but that's also what I think is probably the primary source of where we would gauge that impact amongst grantees. But but I would agree that the way that the survey was designed, it was to assess problems at the individual level. So there is potential there, but not in this particular report.
Great, thank you. Selena?
I assume that this will be part of the final report, but just kind of flagging again, like the total funding landscape is really important when we look at the number of attorneys added and the number of non-attorney staff added, because that's, although the state bar funding increased really dramatically during the time, if other funding increased or decreased or remained stable, that is such a larger picture. 80% of the funding that maybe the state bar funding prevented organizations from mass layoffs if they lost other sources of funding.
Thank you, Selena. Catherine?
So I'm hoping, maybe you covered this and I just didn't hear it, but when you look at the data about the number of indigent Californians per attorney, my recollection is that between these 2 years, 2019 and 2023, the definition of who was increased. And what I guess I feel like that should be said somewhere, because I don't know if you were using the 125% of poverty level, which was the prior standard, there would have been that same increase. So it's in some ways not comparing apples to apples. I mean, it's saying who under this definition was indigent, but it is a different definition of indigency in 2023.
Yeah, that's a good point, Catherine, and the report does address that that change that happened between these 2 points.
Do you know, like, I'm using the 125, what that would have looked like?
Unfortunately, not off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, is it possible to?
Yes, that would be possible to calculate. Yes.
So I just think it would be interesting, because I don't know. I mean, I think part of this is, are we making progress in adjusting the justice gap? And I wonder if we were using the 125, if those numbers would tell a different story. And then it's like good for California, recognizing that in a high cost state that you had to increase it. And that increase, in fact, made the justice gap more significant. And honestly, in California, it should, it sort of gets to your middle income. I'm not really sure what the bars for middle income versus low income and very low income. It might be nice to tie it to like this 200%, and where does that fall? But anyway, I just think there's some additional thinking we could do about that issue. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. That's very helpful. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, so I think we can keep moving forward.
Okay, next we turn to the topic of pro bono service. We are really lucky that the American Bar Association conducted a national survey of pro bono, the survey was conducted in 2023, and it was asked attorneys to reflect on the service that they provided in 2022. The ABA has not yet published their report, but supposedly they will soon. But in the meantime, thanks to our good relationship with them, thank you, Elizabeth Hom, they gave us the data for California sample size. And so we have a data file with over 3,000 California attorneys, vast majority who are active. We received their data. We did some analyses to ensure that the data set and the sample size is representative of attorney race and gender diversity. This was true, less so for sector, workplace sector, and all these details will be in the report. So we apply statistical weighting to all results, so to ensure that these results that I'm about to share with you reflect California's attorneys in terms of the workplace sector. Just so you know that the section of this report also has a discussion of the State Bar's efforts to promote pro bono, as well as the California and national policy landscape surrounding these issues. So what I'm going to do right now is share some results. So this finding, this chart shows the hours of pro bono service California's attorneys provided in 2016 and 2022. Like I said, we have data for 2022 that we analyzed, but the American Bar Association had produced a report on 2016. They did this exact survey, or probably some modifications, back in 2016. So we're able to compare our results with what they reported in 2016. So let's start with what this figure is showing. Let's start up at the top here. At the right, you should see a figure. You see the data points for 50 plus hours. So the State Bar encourages, and the American Bar Association does as well, encourages all attorneys to give at least 50 or more hours a year in pro bono service. And so in 2016, 20% of California attorneys did so, and that's increased slightly. So this is good news. 23% of California attorneys say that they did 50 or more hours. Those two bars at the bottom, though, that reflects the percent of attorneys that said that they did no pro bono service in that year. So that's actually stayed around the same. Okay, so now let's look at the average number of hours. So in 2016, if you looked at the attorneys that did provide pro bono, they provided an average of 79 hours. However, in 2022, if you look at the attorneys that provided pro bono, they provided an average of 116 hours across the year. And so that's a 47% increase compared to 2016. And what we see, though, that is really being driven by the share of attorneys that are reporting that they did 80 or more hours of pro bono service. In 2016, only 12% of attorneys in California said that they did that, did 80 more hours during the year, and that increased up to 15%. So this is our hot off the press information on pro bono service in California. Next slide. And so the survey, text has so many questions, and so you'll see these results. And what I'm going to do here is really focus on, when we analyze this data, we're really trying to understand what are the barriers for attorneys to providing pro bono, and what are opportunities that exist for promoting pro bono. Because again, this is pro bono service is a way to help with the justice gap. And so one of the questions is like, how does your employer discourage or encourage pro bono? And so they were provided with the list. And the way this is organized is that the teal bars at the top, these are a set of factors that is the percent of attorneys that said, yes, my employer this. Down at the bottom, these blue bars are survey response options that measure an employer's encouragement of it. So let's start with discouraging. So 25% of attorneys say that their employers do not allow pro bono during business hours. So that's one big barrier. The next 20% says that they disallow use of internal resources for pro bono activities. When you go down to the factors that are encouraging, one thing that really stands out is that 53% say that they do allow pro bono during business hours, and 45% say allow the internal use. And so then the next, something that was interesting is that 26% said that they actually had a policy that promotes employee pro bono. Let's move forward. So the approach we took in trying to really wrangle our arms around all these kind of questions about what your employer did and didn't do, and like what would encourage you to provide more pro bono if you're given an opportunity, is that we took the sample and divided it into two groups of people. One of the questions was, you were able to assess attorneys who have never done pro bono in their careers. So that's what this pie chart is at the top. What this shows is that the majority of California attorneys actually have provided pro bono at some point in their careers. I know I just said in the previous slide that 55% didn't do any pro bono, but that was in that year of 2022. This pie chart reflects whether they have or have not during their whole career. And so there's a small group of attorneys right now in California that are currently practicing that have not ever yet provided pro bono. And so the results that follow compare these two groups of attorneys, because we think that there's something to learn about the people who have provided pro bono, but even those who have not, what do they think about pro bono, for example? So let's start here on the left. So we're going to talk about the ways employers discourage or encourage pro bono. One thing that stood out is that 54% of attorneys who said that they have not yet provided pro bono said that their employers do not allow it. So we thought that that's something that really stood out for us here. Here on the right, this had to do with the question of like, well, what is the likelihood, like if these conditions were in place, what was the likelihood would be that you would engage in pro bono if any of these activities were available to you? And one thing that stood out to us here is that like more than half of attorneys who have not yet provided pro bono said, yes, you know what, I would do virtual advice and counseling session with clients, right? So that's like a possible opportunity to promote pro bono. Is a pro bono service model moved in this direction here? As you can see, only 31% of attorneys who've never provided pro bono will say representing a client on a case or a matter. So we point to these two. Actually, I should have had a little red circle at the top here. In-person counsel and advice. That's something that'd be open to also in-person advice and virtual advice. But as you can see, representing a client with a case matter, that is less likely for people who have not yet provided pro bono. Okay, next. See what else here. So, the survey also asked people to reflect about pro bono during law school. And 9% reported that pro bono was actually a graduation requirement. And about half of those who said that it was a requirement said that that requirement was just 25 hours or fewer. But the survey also showed that 49% of attorneys with no requirements actually ended up doing pro bono during their law school time. So we looked at people who, and there was a question, well, for those of you who did pro bono in law school, what was your experience like? And whether they did it voluntarily or whether their law school required them to do it, the vast majority described that experience as positive, as you can see. So we thought that this was a very illuminating finding. Okay, so that's our pro bono research. Okay, so now we're at the tail end, I promise you. Now we have a page that takes us into what we're calling other efforts to increase the supply of attorneys who offer free or affordable legal services in California. And we did some research on three such efforts. First is the Legal Aid Leadership's Fellowship Program you're all very familiar with. This is a paid summer fellowship program for law students. We also did some research on legal incubators, and these are programs throughout the state that are meant to cultivate a workforce of private practice attorneys who offer affordable legal services. And then we also did an analysis of loyal referral services. And these are state bar certified services that connect the public with attorneys. These are services that the state bar we certify. It is the #1 request we receive through our state bar call center, asking about this, being connected, which one should I call, etc. And the thing about these loyal referral services is they are required by law to offer some services to serve people of limited means. So it's not just to connect people with referrals, it's also you must offer a set of services. And what we did was, for the first time, we mined the data that we collect from the loyal referral services that exist across the state, who are required on an annual basis to say that they offer any of these set of services. And I look forward to sharing these results with you. Let's get started. So let's just talk really briefly about the Legal Aid Leaders Fellowships. You know, we did a survey of the 88 students that participated in 2024. I'm going to go through it very quickly, but ultimately you see a lot of positive feelings about their participation. 77% said they're still very interested. 86% said they would not have been able to do that internship without the paid internship. And 97% said they would definitely recommend the program to other students who are interested in a career in legal aid. But our conclusion about this is that, you know, these cohorts are just really, really small. This program would really need to increase in order to make a meaningful contribution to the supply of attorneys who will serve low-income Californians. So for example, in a previous slide, we just said that legal aid organizations employ nearly 2,000 attorneys. If they lost 10% of those attorneys due to retention issues every year, they're down 200. They're not even going to be able to replace it with the 88 students if all 88 graduated from law school and sought employment. And so this is our conclusion, again, is a very innovative program. It's obviously having an impact on the students who are participating in the sense that they're still remain very committed, but it really needs to scale up. And we also concluded that we need to start collecting more data to really assess the long-term impact. And that is that we really believe that we need to stay in touch with the students who go through the program some way to see, like, yes, they graduate from law school. Did they eventually make the transition into legal aid work? Okay, next slide. So let's talk about the legal incubators. Several years ago, there was a grant to have all sorts of legal incubators. I think we cite this in our report, but for now, there's only five exist in California. Here they are right here. We reached out to them to see what type of data they collect. And what was the good news is that these incubators have data on the number of attorneys that successfully completed their programs. So 400 attorneys have completed the programs offered by these five incubator programs since their inception. But we did learn that these programs do not collect data on post-program outcomes. So they don't know if people who completed the programs went on to start their small law firm, that went on to offer affordable legal services. And so we really believe that the state bar should offer technical support to these legal incubator programs so they can improve data collection in this regard. Okay, last slide, I promise you. Okay, loyal referral services. So right now there's 37 loyal referral services across the state, and there's around nearly 4,000 attorneys that are currently participating in them. And in 2023, the LRS has made 179,000 referrals to different attorneys. These are the callers that came in. They were able to assess their need, determine that they were eligible, and referred them to an attorney for service. Remember, I said that they're required to tell us the different activities they engage in. So this is the list right there. So when they have a recertification form, they need to say if they offered a free 30-minute consultation. 84% are doing so. 70% are offering modest mean panels. 57% offer limited scope representation, and 19% offer flat fee panels. And so again, this is just another effort that is meant to increase access to affordable legal services. But our conclusion is similar to the other two efforts. The current scale is really kind of insufficient to really meaningfully address the need that we talked about earlier in the presentation. This data, again, which we've analyzed for the first time, shows us that not all LRSs are offering the full range of services meant to promote access to justice. Not that they're required to, but they are required to do some, and what we see here is they definitely are not doing the full range. We'd love to learn more about that. What would it take so more can offer more? And ultimately, we concluded that we really lack comprehensive data on the number of people served by each of these types of services listed here. So we're going to explore modifying our recertification annual form that we receive from participating loyal referral services. Okay, that is all I have, I believe. Next slide. Yes. Okay, that's all I have. That's all I have. You have just received a summary of our preliminary findings for the Justice Gap study. One analysis that is still pending is an analysis of attorney deserts throughout the state. This is where we're attempting to update a study that was done by Professor Meeker and colleagues. And we will definitely have that analysis done in time for the final report. Thank you very much.
So are there any questions related to the supply section of the Justice Gap study? If not, we can move on to our preliminary recommendations. And if there's, questions that come up later, we'll be happy to answer them. So now we're gonna go to the next slide, please. So in developing these preliminary recommendations, we reviewed the 2019 Justice Gap Study recommendations. We considered that there were several additional areas of research, as Lisa went over today. And because there appears to be a justice gap across incomes, we wanted our recommendations to be responsive to the needs of all Californians. So you will see that in our listing of recommendations today. And last, we also considered the Trust Fund Commission's mission, which is to close the justice gap by increasing equitable access to legal services for low-income and underserved communities. So we will want to begin with those recommendations that are most closely aligned to the Commission's missions, and then we'll also pause after each slide for feedback and discussion. Erica?
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. And, just to reiterate, as Elizabeth had said before, these are very much in the preliminary stage. And so we welcome your comments and feedback as we go through these for additional considerations when we work on them in the coming weeks. So on this slide and the next slide, you'll see the initial recommendations that we think are most pertinent to the work of the Commission and your strategic plan over the next few years. And so have identified areas that we think would be fruitful for the Commission to potentially work on some of these if they are implemented moving forward. So I think what I'll do is just go through each recommendation, and then as Elizabeth said, we can pause at the end of the slide and maybe have a little bit of discussion before moving on. So the first recommendation is to administer the legal aid intake census every 2 to 3 years and analyze the results to illuminate trends, understand challenges to providing services, and advocate for appropriate supports for expanding and targeting services to areas of greatest need. So as you heard from Lisa, we know from the most recent intake census that the demand is just as high or higher than 2019, and that fewer problems are being fully resolved. And so some things that we know about this are that funding that's available is not always matched to the area of highest need. And we want to be able to tell sort of a more nuanced story about the requests to ensure that requests for additional funding are in line with, the type and amount of funding needed to target services appropriately, and to also be able to speak to specific populations or areas of law or areas of the state. We'll have that additional data to support any requests for additional funding in the future. And, we also know it's part of the Commission's intent to more assertively collaborate as trusted advisor about the needs of the legal aid community with other stakeholders. And so having this data coming in more regularly rather than every 5 years, which is what the gap that we had between 2019 and 2024, if we could have more current data, that would just bolster any conversations or requests going forward. So this is also an opportunity to fit this into the strategic plan with the Commission's intent to have a more meaningful evaluation and reporting framework. So the next recommendation is to analyze attorney census data to gauge interest and understand the barriers to practicing in rural parts of the state as a precursor to possible initiatives aimed at increasing attorney presence and diversity in these areas. So again, as Lisa mentioned, we will have a justice map section of the report that talks about attorney deserts. Even though the analysis is not complete yet for that, from what we have seen so far, there isn't reason to believe there's a ton of difference from the prior report that she referenced from the California Access to Justice Commission from a few years ago. And so that's why we feel sort of confident floating this initial recommendation at this point in time. We want to, bring more awareness to rural parts of the state and the needs there. And this is also something that the Council on Access and Fairness is likely to work on in the coming year as part of their work plan, increasing diversity in the attorney population and these areas of the state. And so it could be potentially an area of collaboration between the commission and COAF moving forward. And then lastly, the recommendation to develop guidance and promote responsible use of artificial intelligence and automated processes across all aspects of legal practice, particularly among legal aid providers, to increase efficiencies and expand services to more Californians in need of legal help. So this is an effort that the State Bar is already leading to a certain extent. So our office, the Office of Access and Inclusion, has offered grantees access to tools like co-counsel from Case Text as a pilot program, also having legal operations consultant for some grantees to work on sort of building in these processes across their practice. And our Office of Professional Competence is also a leader in terms of providing guidance on the use of AI in legal practice. So this seems to be something that naturally this work could continue, given that the use of AI or automated processes is not going to decrease. And so it provides an opportunity to provide that, to help provide that framework and that guidance for, especially for legal aid, as this will likely only grow. But the other considerations are, recruitment and turnover have remained a challenge for, in the legal aid community. And so to the extent that efficiencies can be increased, automated processes can be increased, and services can be expanded with the use of these tools, I think there's a desire to make sure that those are incorporated. And so I think I'll pause there for any thoughts on these three recommendations before we can move on to the next ones.
I don't see any hands raised, so we can move forward.
Okay, so the next recommendation is to consider increasing the income eligibility threshold for legal aid services from 200% of the federal poverty level to 300% to expand options for low-income Californians to access legal help. So as we sort of discussed a little bit earlier in the meeting, after the last Justice Gap study, there was a desire to increase the income eligibility threshold from 125% to 200% of the federal poverty level. And there was a successful effort to pass that legislation. And so that's been in effect for almost 3 years now. But also knowing the cost of living in California when compared to the federal poverty level, that it really is a much greater level of need above 200%. So acknowledging that something we noticed in the NORC survey, for example, is that those at 300% would be considered low and not lowest income. They still had similar rates of need, of unmet need for their civil legal service problems. And so perhaps expanding eligibility can help address that to some extent. And then it would also, this could also be something that if this recommendation were implemented, that the Rules Committee would be able to work on in coming years. But the next recommendation would be to include public defender offices in the recently authorized lawyer referral service partnership program to better address the complex civil legal needs of individuals involved in the criminal justice system. So Business and Professions Code Section 6155 was recently amended to allow lawyer referral services and nonprofits to develop partnerships with the goal to improve access to justice for low and moderate income individuals. And there's going to be a rulemaking process that the State Bar will undertake to really develop and flesh out this program in the coming months in the next year. And so the parameters of it are not fully defined yet, but with the public defender survey that Lisa talked about, it basically confirmed what many already believe to be true, which is that individuals who are involved in the criminal justice system often present with civil legal needs as well. And so strengthening the connections between public defenders' offices and lawyer referral services or with legal aid could help sort of bridge that gap and get them connected to the services that they need rather than compounding problems. And so the suggestion is to potentially include public defender offices under the umbrella of this new partnership program. And then the last recommendation is to explore partnerships between lawyer referral services and legal aid and pro bono programs as a means to increase pro bono work and facilitate referrals. So again, this would be part of that partnership program I just mentioned, but it would encompass pro bono work as well to help folks get connected to the best source of help that is available to them. And something that our office has been working on is sort of a proof of concept in terms of creating a one-stop shop LRS type platform that matches folks, helps them identify their problem and then matches them with the best source of help that can actually be responsive to their need. And sort of a sub recommendation related to that would be to leverage the partnerships that are going to be formed to provide services to underserved areas of the state through virtual and remote means. So we saw from that pro bono survey that both individuals who do already engage in pro bono and those who don't, something that they might be interested in doing is providing services remotely. And so if that could engage more attorneys in pro bono work, but also reach people in areas where maybe physically there are fewer attorneys present, that would be beneficial. And we know that sometimes technology can also be a barrier to receiving services, but the hope would be that with these partnership programs that there could also be good guidance and access to the tools needed in order to actually facilitate the referrals. So I think I will pause there. I see it looks like Jim has his hand raised.
Sorry with the muting. I would strongly caution, Carol, that if you guys are talking about raising from 200% to 300% on eligibility, that you do the similar analysis that Erica, you and I did back when they were talking about increasing it from what I guess it was the 120 to the 200. Because if you shift the funding eligibility, that's going to radically shift money away from the rural counties, the small rural counties, to the larger urban counties. And I would also strongly suggest, if you're thinking of doing this, I had an hour-long conversation with Lisa Chavez about constructing the database for their analysis of the attorney deserts. And if you're considering doing that, then they should include both the 120, the 200, as well as the 300% data, census data, in the data set that they're creating, so that you can actually measure the shift of resources from the smaller counties to the larger counties.
Thank you.
Oh,
Jim.
and one other thing too, to answer Catherine's question, if I remember correctly, Carol, and maybe you have a much better memory than I, but when we did the shift from the 120 to the 200, that almost doubled the size of the eligibility population, if I remember correctly. And in fact, I think the one commissioner that voted against doing this was concerned about increasing the number of eligible clients without also adequately increasing the services or the resources available, if my memory serves.
Yes, I don't remember the exact percentage increase, but it did increase the eligible population by, I think it was probably about 5 million Californians. So it was a significant increase in terms of those who would then now qualify for services. And I appreciate your comments and agree that we feel there would need to be more research done before acting on this recommendation, which is why it's kind of framed currently more as to consider doing it rather than move forward at this time, because I think we do need a little bit more information.
Judge Wayne Gutierrez.
Yes, on the pro bono service aspect, I was wondering, is there any inquiry about?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing. Am I the only one?
I'm also having a hard time hearing.
Does that work better?
Hello?
Yes. Okay, perhaps Crystal or Kim, you can help her with her sound, and we'll come back. Thank you. Okay, Selena?
Sure, I just wanted to respond to comment about concerns about increasing the income threshold. This is an idea that we discussed at our LAC had a policy advocates retreat, and it came up in that meeting, and all of the organizations there were in strong support. So we plan to actually convene organizations to figure out, how would this impact you? We think that there are a lot of organizations that are turning away clients who are currently over income, but just barely, who could be served through brief services. And I think a lot of organizations were in agreement that they would target their services to the clients of the lowest income and the highest need. But some of these currently over income, potentially not over income in the future, could be really helped through brief services. So we do intend to get significant input from the legal aid community. When we did this last time around, we wanted it to be unanimous support on the amount. We didn't want any organization saying don't do it. So, if this is something the commission is likely to support, I do expect that we will come to a clear consensus in the legal aid community about what that amount should be.
Thanks, Selena. Catherine?
So I guess how I would frame the first recommendation is as it is. I appreciate it's considered, but I think a piece of that has to be an evaluation of the impact on currently eligible clients. And I say that because from my recollection of the data when we started is that the people that are most impacted by the justice gap are low income or very low income Californians. And so I think we would all agree that we don't want to increase something to the detriment of the people that are most impacted by the justice gap. And it just seems a component of this is better understanding what that would be. And I appreciate Selena's comment, and maybe there's some piloting of this to better understand it. Maybe it's increasing it to provide brief services, and it's that limited service type, for example. So I think it's an interesting idea, and I think there's several components that should be included in the recommendation as it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Joanne Gutierrez, are we? Oh, okay. Okay, so then I don't see any additional hands at this moment, so I think we can move to the next set. So for this set of recommendations on this slide, they are related to pro bono legal services. And actually, I want to note that the following two slides, they're not specifically relevant to the commission's mission, but we do think they are important for the commission to be updated on, and would recommend regular updates on the progress of this work as well. So this is related to pro bono legal services specifically. So the first recommendation is related to data collection to better understand where attorneys are located that are doing pro bono work or not doing pro bono work and their practice areas, which we hope will inform future pro bono initiative design and increase volunteerism in our profession. We think that this data collection effort will be facilitated by the amendment to Business and Professions Code 6073, which will require pro bono hours reporting for attorneys beginning in 2026. And we may also look into additional areas where we can collect more nuanced data from our grantees. Ken, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, Elizabeth, quick question. Who within the state bar do you anticipate will be tasked with dealing with the data that starts to come in, first voluntarily in the first year and then mandatorily in years after?
I anticipate that our colleagues in the Office of Research and Statistics, so Lisa and her team, will be tasked with helping us to analyze it, and we will work very closely with them to look at the data and prepare likely a report.
Got it.
Okay, and then our second bullet point here is related to a pro bono education and engagement campaign. So as we saw in the ABA pro bono survey data, some of the barriers to doing pro bono work, we believe is due to lack of information, or perhaps a misconception. For example, and I don't know if we shared this exact data point with you, but there was a concern from many attorneys who responded to the survey about malpractice insurance. But I think many of us are aware that our grantees who work with pro bono attorneys often provide malpractice insurance for their pro bonos. And so we wanted to develop a campaign that targeted law firms, law schools, local and affinity bar associations, and incubator programs to raise awareness of the justice gap of attorneys' pro bono ethical responsibilities, and also where they could seek out opportunities, for example, through the California Pro Bono portal. We also wanted to encourage attorneys to provide pro bono services through organized legal aid and pro bono programs. Again, this goes to a lot of the barriers that were reported in doing pro bono work related to training and mentorship on malpractice insurance. I know we shared data about what could employers do to support pro bono work. So I think a part of kind of our education campaign would be to share that, perhaps doing this work with the organized pro bono program can keep the attorneys focused on the problems of the clients, and not necessarily worrying about using kind of internal resources and that sort of thing. And then last, because it was so overwhelmingly positive for law students to engage in pro bono work. And what we also saw in the data is for those who did pro bono work versus those who hadn't done pro bono work, how significant the changes were in terms of kind of their barriers to doing pro bono work. We wanted to encourage California law schools to develop a training or curriculum on access to justice issues, which could emphasize pro bono legal services for all of their law students. Currently, we understand that many law schools, especially for their public interest students, provide this kind of course, elective courses, but we wanted to encourage schools to make them perhaps available to all students, so that all students have a better understanding of what important role pro bono plays. And last, we would want to enhance kind of law school pro bono programs and opportunities. I will note before we open it up to questions on this slide that we were able to reach out to some of our pro bono stakeholders in the community, including the Access Commission, the pro bono managers groups organized by One Justice, and the pro bono directors at our Legal Services Corporation funded grantees, to share some of the preliminary data that you saw today, as well as share some of our preliminary recommendations. And I think there was great enthusiasm from them for this. Erin.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. I'm curious if when you're looking at data that you either already have or may expand, or if the current kind of funding structure that the State Bar uses for the pro bono allocation funding, that extra bit of funding that some QLSPs get, if that could be part of the data that you look at, how that's working, to make sure that we're kind of optimizing the way the funding streams might be helping to align with the goal of increasing pro bono.
Yeah, thank you for that suggestion. We can look into that. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised at this moment, so I think we can move forward.
Great. So I think a theme that we've all been hearing throughout this discussion is that there's a desire to collect more data, to understand better some of what we're seeing, and that there's a lot of opportunities out there to do so. And so this next recommendation is overarching, is to collect data at established intervals for various initiatives, and those being the legal incubator programs. So looking at career outcomes for legal incubator participants to determine the impact on the availability of services for low to moderate income clients, and then to identify which models are most supportive and relevant for future practice. So we know that legal incubator participants, for example, collect demographic data and practice area data on their participants, but we have little insight into what happens once they have graduated or moved on from the incubator program. And, since there's fewer programs today than there were originally, collecting this type of data might help inform or provide guidance about what type of training and resources work best in actually helping practitioners establish themselves when they start their own law firms. And then another opportunity for data collection would be to look at the career outcomes for participants in the Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Program to determine, whether the participation supports future employment in legal aid. We have already talked about how this program has grown substantially since it started. There's going to be 167 participants in 2025, I believe. And it's been a successful recruitment tool, at least for summer. And so we're hoping that collecting this data will help establish sort of the pipeline, or what we believe it'll demonstrate the pipeline from law school to career. And this is also something that would fit in with the Commission's plan to enhance its data collection and analysis and explore new funding opportunities. So this one's particularly pertinent to the Commission. And then the lawyer referral service modest means panel outcomes should be collecting more information to inform the development of the partnership program that we've touched on a little bit. So we know that 70% of the LRSs have a modest means program, but we don't have much information on their efficacy at this point. And so if we had wanted actually to perform an analysis of that for this version of the Justice Gap Study, and we weren't able to because that data is not complete. And so that would be the recommendation, as well as to see how they're meeting the needs of sort of the low or moderate income individuals who approach them. I see Catherine's hand is raised.
I'm happy to let you finish the slide too, or I can just say I'm interested with the intersection of kind of law school students who say they want to go into legal aid and what happens to them, kind of combined with the legal aid recruitment and retention. And I guess two thoughts about that. One, is there a way to include within this sort of some surveying of law students and thinking through what that looks like? And then I don't know if anybody's planning to do an additional study about legal aid recruitment and retention. I think LAC might have worked with the State Bar, or LAC did it the last time. And I feel like, particularly as we're thinking about understanding an expansion of the eligible clients, that understanding what's happening with legal aid recruitment and retention and some success with that will help us answer part of that puzzle. So those are just two things I think to contemplate as additional data that would be helpful as we're analyzing kind of some of the other recommendations here. So thanks. And sorry for interrupting your presentation, Erica.
No, not at all. Okay, and then so the next recommendation would be to launch an educational campaign centered on the legal needs of small business owners and include the needs of small business owners in development of the planned lawyer referral service partnership program. In the information that Lisa presented, it seemed that time or cost involved in seeking legal services was one of the primary challenges that small business owners had identified in terms of accessing legal help. But we also saw that 93% of them went online looking for information. And so an educational campaign could potentially serve a dual purpose of connecting owners to services, as well as, providing information on more routine issues they might be dealing with that they could potentially either receive brief service or even resolve on their own. So it seemed that an educational campaign might be a good starting point, but also since we know there was a really high need in this population, there was some suggestion of building that into the lawyer referral service partnership program, like having a specific focus on the needs of small business owners, as that is maybe overlooked when you're talking about either individuals or larger businesses or corporations. And then other areas to be addressed. So there's a piece of the Justice Gap study called The Legal Market Landscape that we'll be looking at, which is going to be looking at the percentage of firms that serve individuals versus businesses. That piece of the report is still being worked on, and so we don't have a particular recommendation related to that yet. And then Lisa did talk about specifically when we looked at the area of law with immigration, we do anticipate having more recommendations related to that, because, you know, we saw that there is a slightly larger gap in terms of the need for services versus what's available. When we looked at the intake census, it was 79% to 76%. And we're also engaging with grantees and other stakeholders around this issue to really understand it better before making a recommendation. And one of the steps that has been taken most recently was having focus groups with state bar grantees to understand what they're seeing, especially in the coming year with anticipated changes in federal policy around immigration, wanting to know what grantees are anticipating or what the needs will be there. And so already seeing increases in demand for services, potentially shifting services to more limited services or more know your rights, like essentially focusing on breadth versus depth. These are some of the themes that are coming up from grantees. And so we're going to be looking at their comments and also doing having other conversations to inform our understandings so we can come up with a recommendation that'll be the most responsive, we think, given the current landscape. So those were all of the recommendations that we have right now. As I said at the beginning, some of these may be subject to change. There may be more that we develop in the coming weeks as we kind of finalize aspects of the report. But happy to take your comments on the ones that are on the slide or any of the ones that we've covered so far to hear your feedback. Thanks.
And if there are recommendations that you think we may have overlooked and that maybe should be included, we would welcome that input as well.
Digest that we can collect in feedback through email, or if you want to schedule a call with us. Elizabeth and Erica are going to be working with Erica Connolly and me to kind of finalize these in a few weeks.
So that's our next slide is next steps. You can continue to provide Erica and me feedback on the recommendations, and then we will work with the co-chairs to refine and finalize the recommendations in January. And again, the 2024 Justice Gap Study report will be published in February 2025. Selena.
Just a really quick update, because Catherine mentioned the recruitment retention report. LAC did a recruitment retention report in 2010 and 2020. So we were spacing them 10 years apart, but I think we'll be doing one in 2025. I think our goal is to kind of marry them to as frequently as possible to the Justice Gap studies, because the issues are so closely related. So once we have figured out our plan, I will report back as part of my liaison report to this commission, where it's not going to be as robust as the 2020 report. It's just a very expensive report to do. But one thing we're especially interested in are the ways that legal aid organizations are retaining staff who are at risk of burnout. So we have a lot of conversations in the legal aid executive director community and other HR community around how to address now that we are concerned our staff may burn out in 2025, and what we can do to prevent that burnout of the most experienced staff. So we'll have some kind of narrative responses as part of our recruitment retention report of just highlighting what organizations are doing.
Erin?
Yeah, one thing that was just occurring to me, some of the recommendations are to do, education campaigns. I think you mentioned the small business owner and then pro bono community education. Have you thought about, or has the State Bar done in the past, just a broader public education effort? One of the earliest slides that we looked at just shows the real lack of information that the public has, that their problems even have a civil legal solution. And so any, attempt to bridge that knowledge gap or information gap, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, actually following the 2019 study, we worked with the Access Commission to do a public education campaign and kind of test different modalities to see what would be successful. And so that was, I thought, very illuminating and could probably inform future outreach to the public. And then our own communications team has also done some kind of testing with various languages to push out public information about legal services for the public as well. So I think it may be a good idea for us to kind of include a recommendation specifically about the knowledge gap and communications about that. Thank you, Erin.
Eric, I think that concludes Lisa, Elizabeth, and Erica's presentation. And then again,
Great.
we will feel free to give us any more comments through email, or if you want to set up a call, we'll be happy to talk to you more about it. We welcome it. So Erica, we'll turn it back to you for the admin and update.
Perfect. And I'll just say before we go, is like I was taking notes on everyone's comments as well. So very helpful thoughts on this as we finalize these recommendations. And if there's as after people digest, you're welcome to also reach out to me and let me know if there's other thoughts as Amin and I kind of work with the staff to get these finished. And I also just want to say, I want to just express my very significant appreciation to the staff on getting all of this data, pulling it all together, being so thoughtful about what kinds of conclusions we can and cannot kind of start to draw from that data. So it's a huge effort, and it's so important for us to get a vision and to what's happening and the way in which our resources are helping, how they can be more helpful. So I wanted to make sure we acknowledge that the staff is doing an amazing job and just working so much to pull all this together. So that's wanted to make sure I said that. Okay, so then, oh yeah, of course. Thank you guys. So at this point, I think we will take the feedback that we've gotten, any additional feedback and we will work on finalizing the report and the recommendations. Then we have some administrative updates, which I will let Juan kind of give us sort of the initial information on this and some interesting things that are happening that are going to affect the commission.
Yeah, so first off, thank you to Erica and Ephraim for being available the last few weeks. There's been a lot of kind of movement. As if you've been following the news, the legislature has convened some special sessions to kind of talk about post-election responses. A lot of that is focused on funding for the Attorney General's office to take on kind of a litigation response and strategy for the state of California. There is a budget proposal now that's on the table from the Senate side for a good increase to legal services funding. $25 million. $10 million would be right now proposed to be distributed through the Judicial Council to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission as an increase to equal access funding, which is wonderful, wonderful to have. Another $5 million will go to the Access Commission for cybersecurity and pro bono coordination. And the third component of that is to One California, which is a program under CDSS to provide immigration removal defense and deportation defense assistance. And they've been doing that type of work from the last kind of election. So we're really pleased. We've been in the conversation with both legislative staff as well as the governor's office to try to, any questions they have and try to be really responsive. And we don't know, this is not guaranteed, that's just from the Senate, I should say. That's just the Senate proposal. There's a couple more, the Assembly has to agree and then the governor has to sign off. So we're hopeful, but it's definitely not guaranteed. But in light of that, we wanted to try to convene an early January meeting, and I'll hand that off over back to Erica to kind of talk about the why. And part of the why, or a lot of the why, is we wanted to be able to move really quickly and nimbly to be responsive to like the needs in California. And this is a especially urgent time, trying to gear up to be coordinated and to be responsive before the changing kind of federal landscape.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thanks, Dawn. So one of the things that we'll need to do is, if assuming this money gets approved, we need to move very quickly to actually get it distributed. And there's a few different ways that we can approach this that I wanted to just highlight for everybody. You know, one of the ways that we could do this is to really defer to staff to essentially evaluate the to evaluate, any applications, and if there's any issues that come up, then that's the only time that the commission would be involved. That, I will just tell you, is sort of my preference, given that the strategic that we sort of shifted the strategic role of the commission, and we don't necessarily need to be as much in the weeds. If the commission is not doing that, then another option would be that and this meeting that we would do sort of in late December, early January, would be to actually delegate that authority. The other option is we could delegate to one of the committees, and then that committee would have the authority to sort of move very quickly, and to expedite getting this like funds out, which is, we think, one of the big goals of this is this funding is sort of seen as, essentially a kind of emergency funding. And so we want to make sure it's getting out. And the big thing that we need is, like, if we're going to do this, we need to like have quorum. Everybody has to make their appearance in sort of late December, early January. I think as far as availability, hopefully that's not challenging for folks. It wouldn't be a very long meeting. I think it would be a meeting where we would just get information about, what the funding is, decide, who it's going to be like delegated to. And then we would, and Dawn, if I'm getting any of this wrong, please correct me. And then we would like take a vote on it. I think the biggest challenge obviously is around the holidays. It's just finding a notice location. But frankly, I think at this point, if you don't want to do it in your home, do it in a nearby Starbucks. We can also help you with like finding notice locations. So we just want to gauge whether, like, the commission members, if there is availability. We know that's kind of a big ask to do this, but we also really want to be responsive to the community and like really show the legislature just how able we are to really use our staff and use the commission to be really responsive to the community and the needs that come up on a more expedited basis. So I'm curious if folks are, and we have some questions, sorry. So Judge Rossi, do you want to go first, and then Catherine after that?
I think Catherine was actually first, but.
Oh, sorry, Catherine, go first. I apologize.
Either was.
The hands show up in a weird way on my thing.
It's all good. I would have been fine the other way, but not to go back and forth. So first of all, I want to really thank Dawn and Elizabeth for being so responsive during like Thanksgiving holiday weeks and subsequent to that, which I think was really fabulous. I guess I'm not opposed to the approach you're outlining at all. I will just note the actual legislature is not meeting right now. They don't return until January 6th. My understanding of the timing is that there will be some committee hearings the first week in January where this issue will be taken up, and that the full legislature won't likely vote on it until the week after that, with the goal being that this would be in place by January 20th. So that's my understanding from my conversations entirely possible. Other people are saying things. I don't know if that changes what you want to do, but I don't know that you're going to have information about what the funding looks like or any of that until the legislature returns. Ideally, people will know that there's kind of an agreement about this the first week in January, so that there can be these sort of quick hearings and quick legislative approval. But so I don't know. It really just trying to frame it of what are we deciding in December? It's just a process piece without knowing like amounts of money, etc. Maybe that's perfectly fine. So that's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine.
I can respond really quickly. So I think, yeah, that was the timeline that we're thinking of in consultation with Selena. That I think the hope is that something will be signed by the governor before the federal inauguration, and so we're working backwards from that January 20th time. We were hoping to have this delegation early January. I think there is flexibility to move into, say, perhaps the second week of January. It is a little bit tight for us because the way, depending on how the commission wants to, if the commission is comfortable with delegating authority to us, and we don't know, right? This is today, right now, is that we don't have an agendized it, so we can't have a substantive comment, a discussion. And so we wanted to have a more substantive discussion to make sure that we're on the same page. Because if that's the case, then you're right. A meeting the second week of January is fine. If the commission is not comfortable with that and there needs to be like another, that would give us pivot room. That's why we're suggesting a January meeting in case the commission wants a little bit more processes or to be a little bit more involved. Then we have a little bit of wiggle room to call an additional commission meeting or whether it be a committee meeting. So Catherine is correct in that we have a proposed language now on the Senate side. We don't know what's going to stick, but we do anticipate it'll be something along those contours. And it is it's going to be an increase to EF funding, right? So the base, I mean, there's some language now, and we could share after this meeting. We'll send it out, the proposed language. There are some parameters to the EF funding, but it's largely in line with what the existing EF funding is. So it's not changed, and they're not proposing for the commission to determine additional programs to be eligible. It'll be already a determination of programs that are eligible for 2025 funding. So largely really just running the formula, then getting the money out. And so even if we think, even if you might not have the exact language, or maybe if the dollar amount changes a little bit, it'd still be largely the same process. So we're hoping with that bit of information that maybe the commission will be comfortable either delegating to staff or to delegate it to a specific committee to do it. But if the commission is not, then having an early January meeting and then to pivot otherwise would allow that. So that was the rationale. But Judge Kristen?
Yeah, I think you actually maybe just answered my question, because I was thinking about what we talked about at the last meeting about wanting to be able to move quickly in January and be responsive. And I think you actually used the word nimble, which I think is a great word. And so I think I would just, to the extent that we can, try to get together late December, early January, just so that if we do get this funding, that we can move quickly to get it out to the people who need it and in the areas that are going to need it. So I would just, to the extent that folks need encouragement to try and meet sooner rather than later. Those were my questions and my comments on it.
Yeah. The other thing is we've been kind of in conversation with the governor's office is there's a lot of questions about how timely each of these kind of three agencies can get the funding. And I think we're all kind of motivated to get it out as quickly as possible. So on our end, what we've said to the governor's office, if there's some reasonable assurance that this is going to happen, and I don't know if we're quite there, I don't know if we've gotten that reasonable assurance, but at some point, if they can provide that to us, then at least our office can work with the commission to start to do a lot of preemptive work, right? Whether that's informing programs. We've already actually ran the formula preliminarily, but whether that's sharing that out widely, whether it's doing a webinar just to get everybody kind of rolling, then we are happy to do that. But we didn't also want to jump the gun. So we have said to them is when you feel comfortable letting us know, then this commission piece would then just make sure that we're in alignment. Like the staff have actually we have a plan in place already that we've been crafting, but we'd love to share that with you, even if it's a delegation of authority, just to make sure that you all are comfortable with that direction. And so that's part of it too. Half of it is delegation, but the other half is that we want to unveil the plan so that you all are comfortable with it.
Thanks, Dawn. So I think the big thing that we need to like push you, that I'm going to push you all today, and you don't have to like answer today, but I'm just gonna, the staff after this meeting is gonna send out like a doodle poll, and then try to do a lot of opportunities in that last December, last week of December, early January. Please, please try to be as available as possible. If you help find a place to do a notice location because you're traveling or something, please let us know. We'll do what we can to do it. I don't want to take up, and we're not intending to take up a lot of your time during the holidays, but we need to have that meeting. We need to have a discussion on how we want to structure it, whether it's delegating to a committee or delegating to staff. We can't do that discussion right now. And frankly, I think we want to see the plan and, kind of what a little bit more information. So I'm impeaching, imploring you. That's I'm not gonna like I'm not cross-examining anyone at this point. I'm imploring you to please be available because we will need quorum in order to like take that vote in order to these things pretty quickly. Okay.
Well,
Dawn, is there
logistically,
anything?
yeah. So Crystal's going to send out a survey. You'll see that we picked several days. They span a 2-week period. And Crystal suggested doing like a morning time. There's a 9 to 10, a 12 to 1, and then at the end of the day, 1 hour from you. And so hopefully something will work in that time period. And if it doesn't, we will put our heads together with Erica and Amin and figure out another set of time.
Jason?
Sorry, just clarifying question because of notice locations and Beckley Keene and such and holiday travel. I'm going to assume that a notice location cannot be out of state, but
it can be out of state. We have had notice location out of the country.
Out of state.
Yeah.
Okay, because I will not be in the state of California during the holidays.
That's fine. Yeah, out of state is fine.
All right, thanks.
But not at an airport though. Not at an airport. Sometimes it's
interesting, but sure.
Well, because the public has to be able to access you. So you can't be at like the gate of an airport where people
pre-security, got it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we can run that by OGC if that's the only place you can be at the time.
Hopefully we can find a time that I don't have.
Yeah. So this is a very exciting opportunity. This was the legislative session was kind of a new thing, and it's a great opportunity for us to like really get funds out because we think there's going to be a pretty significant need with the given some of the representations in the new administration, and so yes, very much please give as much availability as possible. Any issues, finding a place to be, let us know. We'll work it out for you, and then start to think too about what you're comfortable with as far as the delegation, because it will be not easy for us to all meet together again and do it a second time. We need to delegate. It's just, do we need to do it to a committee? Do we want to do it to staff? Is it to staff unless there's an issue, and then at which point it will come back to us? So I encourage you to think through some of that too, so that we have a pretty thoughtful conversation and can make that decision pretty quickly. All right, anything else, Dawn, that I think we need to cover?
Thank you. We don't convene, and our proposals aren't for dates before Christmas, so we're not going to see you before the holidays. I just want to wish everybody really happy holidays, and thank you for a wonderful year.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Yeah, thank you all, and thank you. Yes, I echo Catherine's point that thank you to staff for working over the Thanksgiving holiday. I'm on the DOJ side of things, so I also was doing some holiday work, and it was like a lot. So very much appreciative to everyone who's like stepping in on this. Great. Thank you all. Have a great holiday. Have a great rest of your week, and make sure you answer the doodle poll. Otherwise, I'll come chase you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.